Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this SICC Sustainability Series event, exclusively sponsored by our strategic partner, the Singapore American School, SAS. This series of events focuses on people and planet. And today we're looking at food sustainability and what we can all do to make sure we have a better outcome for ourselves and for future generations. That's what sustainability is all about. Not only doing the right thing today for the right reasons, but also thinking about future generations and what we hand over to them in terms of the state of the planet and also the state of our societies. We've got three expert speakers for you today. First of all, we've got Mr. Nicholas Ng, who's the co-founder of the Food Bank. And Nicholas will talk to us about the state of wastage in Singapore and how we as individuals, companies, and society in general can ameliorate this waste at the same time benefiting those that are less fortunate than many of us. After Nicholas finishes his address, he will hand over to Simon Thomas, who's the Director of Facilities and Services at Singapore American School. And Simon's going to share the SAS commitment to reducing food waste and how they do this. And Simon will be followed by Ms. Kyra Ramesh Krishna, who's a student of the school, and she's going to tell you what the student body does and how it collaborates with the school and with each other to achieve positive outcomes. And after Kyra has completed her comments, there will be a Q&A opportunity for you to put your questions to Nicholas and Simon. Kyra's got to leave for another appointment, so she won't be joining us for the Q&A. And that brings me to Q&A. So please do use the Q&A box that you'll find at the bottom of your screen to type in your questions. You can upvote those that most appeal to you. That'll help me as moderator, and I'll be back to moderate the Q&A after the speakers have completed their addresses. So without further ado, it's a real pleasure to hand over to Nicholas, the co-founder of the Food Bank Singapore, to tell us his take on food sustainability and the societal issues that go along with it. Nicholas, over to you.
There we go. Hey, thank you. Just give me 1 minute. Let me start it up so you guys can see something. And there we go. Hi, yeah, thank you very much for allowing me to share, I guess, the food bank story. And thank you for the introduction. Just to share as well, in my other life, I run a food distribution business with my sister. So Food Bank was actually started in 2012, also with my sister, because we run a family business together, and we thought we still sort of loved each other, and we didn't wanted to kill each other, so we thought we should do something for charity. Anyway, just I guess I will read off the numbers here, but essentially this slide is telling you that Singapore wastes a lot of food, and we dump a lot of food. And being a first world country, I think we could definitely do a better job in, I guess, trying to recycle and save the food wastage. At the same time, Food Bank, we actually commissioned a study with the Lian Center for Social Innovation. And in short, this slide means that 1 in 10 Singaporeans experience food insecurity. So for those that don't know, what food insecurity means is that you do not have enough money to put food on the table for that entire month. So in Singapore, we have very little people in absolute poverty, but we have a lot of people that are not able to have enough money to buy food for the entire month. So they need to be supplemented with food bundles and help from NGOs like Food Bank. So some of the causes, they're all here. Again, anybody wants the slides, I can always share it with you. But yeah, I guess basically is that there is not enough, they still do not receive enough help. And a lot of times they, if I really had to stereotype, a lot of them are the blue collar workers or gig economy workers, where if you don't work, you probably don't earn the money. And for example, if you're a taxi driver, if you fall sick, you do not have sick leave. You are your own boss in that way, but which also means that if you are not feeling well, you do not earn money. And now, what does the food bank do? This little, I guess, photo on the left of your screen is in general what food banks around the world do. So food bank is not a new concept. Me and Nicole actually just took the concept from overseas and brought it into Singapore. If you notice, what we used to not have is farm and fisheries, but as the last couple of years, and most of you know, we have a lot of fisheries now, and we have a lot of vegetable farms. But basically, it's everybody and anybody. And I saw the guest list that signed up for this. Some of you are already volunteering or have volunteered at Food Bank before. So hopefully you guys have came down and seen the food bank before, and you sort of understand what we do. So anybody and everybody can donate to us. We actually will redistribute this food to beneficiaries or to the needy people. So who are the beneficiaries we are helping in Singapore? Currently, it's over 370 organizations, and they include family service centers, SICC, so old folks homes, children's homes, soup kitchens like Willing Hearts, which is the biggest one in Singapore. We are also not ethnic bias and religious bias, so we work with temples, churches, so it could be Indian temples, anybody, Chinese temples and everything. So we work at anybody and everybody that needs food. So we are just trying to meet everybody's food needs. So we have worked with quite a fair bit of organizations. So what type of food do we collect usually? Non-perishables, that's quite simple. Package items, longer shelf life. We've done perishable items. That photo of cupcakes in front of you, it's from a bakery. That pallet of these are dairy items. These are from Red Mart. And the one on the right, it's actually cooked food from Marina Bay Sands. So it's starting to come back because of conventions and all that. But so what we actually do for cooked food is, I think we are probably the only organization in Singapore that collects cooked food. And what we usually do is we collect it chilled. We collect it in a chilled truck, and we donate it to homes that actually have equipment or facilities that can heat up the food. So there is no breakage of cold chain, and food is still safe for consumption as well. What other things we do? Bank boxes. These are the boxes and the photo on the left. Depending on the locations, some boxes are bigger than others. We are currently also working, for example, with Shell, which are in these white boxes that you see, or Cold Storage. Cold Storage they have upgraded the boxes themselves. Now it's this nice black. It used to be a roll cage, for those that know. Now it's this nice black. It's still a cage, but it's a black box. We do food drives. Food drives are, thank goodness, coming back. But because of the last 2 years of pandemic, it was much lesser. Some of the programs we do, we call this Joy in Every Bundle. It's basically just food bundles. So what we do is, especially for corporates that don't have time to plan, we take the ease and take the burden out of the planning for you. You just tell us what your budget is, who might you want to reach out to, old folks, children, and all that. We will create the bundle for you. We will also send the bundles down to that location where the beneficiaries are staying. And the corporates will actually send their volunteers down. They will pack it and they will redistribute it. So it's essentially like what you see in the photos. Of course, you can come down to our warehouse. You can volunteer. We have corporates that actually pledge times. So for example, they say, I want every Tuesday for 2 hours in the afternoon. and they would send people down every Tuesday. So yeah, so that's quite simple. Then of course we do kids and youth program. This one, the funny thing is, it's Nicole and myself. So we actually started this because, for very selfish reasons, we openly tell you, because I have 2 kids, she has 4 kids, and our kids are now aged between 11 and 2. So we wanted to find something to get our kids to learn more about giving back and all that. But we realized that programs for kids below 12, it's very hard to find, because you need chaperones, you need people to look after the kids. So what we did was we created our own programs. So we have youth programs once every quarter. And if anybody's interested, you can go to the website and find out more. So you can register and sign up for the kids. It's usually quite popular. And of course, following what the government has asked all of us to do, use technology. So what we did was, this was one of our bigger projects where, if you notice, nice vending machines, we actually use a technology to, let me check the time. Okay. We actually use technology to try and top up all these so-called cubby holes. And we give out this thing called a bank card. It is almost like your transport card, your ATM card. We would remotely top up credits every month, and you can redeem the credits for food inside. So these food are also usually shorter in shelf life. So we take food that's donated, that's short in shelf life, or anything that's donated, and we put it here, and it's usually all consumed anyway. And of course, the next step for that same bank boxes, it's frozen food vending machines. So now, if you can imagine, if you look at the photo on the right, it is at the extreme right, there's photos of the dried goods. And this one in the middle, it's the frozen food vending machine, and you can redeem food. And there's also an attached microwave. So for needy people who don't have a microwave at home, they can heat up the food. So essentially what happens is that you will be able to get hot food at any time of the day. So our program, this one, it's supposed to supplement the programs, for example, Willing Hearts. They only give out lunch. So what's going to happen for breakfast and what's going to happen for dinner? So for us, this is a quick and easy way, without using a lot of manpower, to try and give people hot food anytime. And of course, the next step after this is that we are working with F&B partners to be able to, for the needy again, to be able to use the card to claim for meals at the F&B establishment. So it could be, for example, if you go to Subway, you can redeem a 6-inch sub. So again, we are now trying to give choice and the freedom of choice for these needy people. So we are not saying that you are only restricted to a vending machine, but you can actually go out and feel as if you are like anybody. So, and nobody needs to know that you are using, you're claiming meals, or you don't have money to pay for the meals. So some people might be interested in what we did for COVID. Short of time, I will run through, but basically it's during COVID, we redistributed 560 tons of food. And the key thing here is we actually distributed door to door, because all the beneficiaries that the family service centers we were working with, they were considered non-essential for some reason, and they couldn't work. So they were locked up at home, so to say. And so they contacted us and they asked us, oh, can you please give food to all these people? So we work with F&B establishments again to give out the food. Last couple of slides. We started in 2012, like we said, and we actually worked with only 30 beneficiaries, and we redistributed 2 tons. So it's about 2,000 kilos. And you see right to the end, I'll give you the number in 20. So far in 2021, we have given out 870. This was end of 2021. I think we hit about over 1,000 tons of food. So the number hasn't been updated, but 2022 is, the number seems to be going down a bit, which is actually also not that bad a thing, because which means that we don't have that much food wastage anymore. And that's my last slide. Thank you, everybody.
Many thanks, Nicholas. And I now hand over to Simon, followed by Kyra. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Nicholas. That's really, wow, quite inspired here. We were talking on mute and seeing what we can do to help that here, and I'm sure we'll be part of the food bank soon. I think what we're going to share today, I'm actually hoping there'll be people on the call from hotels and things like that that will be able to give us some sort of indication and direction and some new ideas. But today, really what I can do is I can try and share with you what we are doing here in terms of food waste, and then see if there's any opportunity, or maybe something will come up in the Q&A that we can do better. Then I'm going to hand over to Kyra, one of our students here at SAS, who's going to talk a little bit about the student journey in sustainability as a whole, and then food waste. So I think we all know what this is all about here, but I want to point something out in the bottom corner, if you can see that here, which is the regulatory drive as well. So in 2024, the regulations, NEA will change the regulations. They will be pushing back for most companies that have an F&B things, and we're a pretty big F&B place, to try and reduce food waste. One of my questions for Nicholas later will be, how might that affect the food bank here? So Nicholas talked about where things are, and we use this sort of triangle to guide us here. And when we, just to give you a sense of the context, so we're a school of just over 4,000 students. So we have 1,000 sort of full-time staff, and in terms of contract staff, we would have about another 1,000 contract staff, around 3,500 hot meals served every day, and then bakery, cafes, and other supporting things that you would expect in a school. So we actually have a pretty large food service team here of almost 60 people to look after the school. So when we talk about food waste, we sort of split it into these two main segments. We have what we call avoidable food waste here, and I think a lot of this will be very familiar to Nicholas and stuff like that. So dealing largely with avoidable food waste, and then unavoidable food waste is that the byproduct of eating. That's how we see it, and we try and act in both quadrants, both segments here. So avoidable food waste is something that I think we can all do a better job at. We live in a first world country, and we exist in a very first world way. So we tend to have a lot of avoidable food waste, and in a school context, it's no different here. So how we've tried to attack this, and there may be other ways to do this, but this is how we've done it, is largely when we talk about catering and production, we're focused at the moment on what is, I think, coined as ugly food here. So we try and encourage our catering providers to go and look for alternate products. If you're going to chop up a carrot, does it really matter whether it's straight or not here? And that creates a pathway here for things. And then we run 2 bakeries and other bits and pieces, and we have a naan counter and a naan production area and stuff like that. So this creates a lovely pathway for some of our disasters that don't quite go to plan. We've seen in other countries the discount end of service food. That's not so common in Singapore as a whole, and we're trying hard to do that. We do it in 2 ways, obviously selling things at a discount, but then trying to target those that would not usually eat in our school. So our price point isn't particularly expensive, but 50 cents or even 20 cents here or there can make the difference between some members of our community, mainly actually in my facilities and services team, choosing to eat in the school or whether to just go outside. So we're finding that it's very, very popular for people to get to the end of the service and then tapao some stuff to take back to their home, and providing them a good portion of food for that. We have a lot of construction on site at the moment. It's also providing quite a nice pathway for our construction team to get a decent amount of protein in their diet. And then I think the tricky one for us is trying to right size the portions. We have ginormously tall and big strapping youths in the school, and then we have those that are perhaps don't need to quite consume as much food. So we're struggling a little bit with that. And then using a piece of software called LeanPath, which some of you may have heard by one of our catering providers, to try and do some analysis of what gets thrown away, look at our 6-week menu cycle, take things off that aren't so popular here. A lot of work still to do in that bit. So that's the avoidable food waste. The unavoidable food waste is really about providing the opportunity for the students to participate in a food waste journey for this type of food. So we have food waste bins everywhere, like really scattered all over the school. You struggle to miss them. Everywhere there's a plate clearing station, there's a clear food waste bin here. And actually on top of the bin, you can see that vaguely, you can see that policeman there that you see everywhere, and it tries to engage the students in a friendly way here. So we have a journey for the food waste, and we've tried to create a circular economy around it. We generate so much food waste that really is there. Everything from production, which you can see in the middle, and then actually post-consumer waste. So we actually invested in an eco composter here. We invested in a very large one. It's got a massive volume in it, and we actually fill the thing pretty much every day. So we take in this. We also use it for our grass cuttings. We have a full grass field here, and we obviously have a fair number of plants on our 15-hectare site. So we use it for the horticultural waste. We actually fill 350 kilos every single day with the food waste and the horticultural waste here. And then where that goes is produces compost here through a sort of fermentation, and then it gets dried and put in. And then where we've created a circular economy is we have a community garden. So we have 99 gardening plots that we have put in as part of we give up 4,000 square meters of our school land, and we've converted it into a community garden here. This is not for the students here, although a couple of staff do have gardening plots on this, and I saw the kindergarten wandering around there yesterday. It's not really for the students. It's not part of our educational program. This is for the aunties and uncles in our neighboring blocks around here to come and enjoy and grow things and create a local community here. Really popular, extremely popular during COVID because it's an outdoor space and people can get some fresh air here. But this is where the compost ends up. And the interesting thing with this is the land was actually really poor when we took it over. It was what I would call secondary forest and actually very poor quality land. And since we dump a couple of hundred kilos of fertilizer in it every couple of days here, the land really has come back to life. Our idea is that eventually, once this gardening plots and when we need to return this land to the government in 5 years or so time, and the gardeners have to leave, the land will be nourished enough that we can replant the rainforest with native trees, and that rainforest will be able to survive, whereas the secondary rainforest was really not thriving in a very clay-like soil. So that's it on the journey. I'm sure there's many people on the call that are doing it better than us here. I'm absolutely sure there is. So we have a lot of challenges. We're still on a journey. This is not something that we're finished with. I think Kyra will talk a little bit about the human aspect of it, which is, how do we deal with behaviors and make sure that people don't put stuff in the food waste bin? How do we get better outcomes at all these levels of the pyramid? And then largely, what do we do with the student population? So that's it. That's our journey. We're really open to any sort of questions or anything that you have. And I'm going to hand over to Kyra here to hopefully give us a good insight into the student journey. Over to you, Kyra.
Hello, everyone. Very nice to meet you today. I'll start out by introducing myself and then speaking a little more about our history. So I'll go ahead and begin. My name is Kyra Ramesh Krishna. I'm currently a 12th grader here at Singapore American School. I kind of joined environmental service early on in my 9th grade of high school. And I did this by joining the club Blue Planet Initiative. And although we focus specifically on marine conservation, if you take a look at the left, you'll see a picture of me at a beach cleanup near East Coast Park. Although we focus on marine conservation, we really try and adopt sustainable practices and advocate for sustainable practices across the school. For the past 2 years, aside from being the co-president of the club Blue Planet Initiative, I've also worked alongside other environmental clubs here at SAS as part of an Eco-SAS task force. So now a bit about our history. And after I talk about our history, I'll talk about the obstacles we faced as well as the changes we ended up having to make. The first bit is we began the Eco-SAS task force in 2017 alongside of the creation of the club. And the purpose was to attain the World Wildlife Fund Eco School certification. However, this required a lot of structuring from the administration and from student body across all 3 divisions. So that'll be elementary, middle, as well as high school. And we found that there were several challenges and obstacles. For one, there was friction between students and administration and a lack of coordination and communication. And in the end, a lot of logistical issues compiled to a final rejection of this proposal. And our Eco-SAS task force found that we came at a standstill. And what we ended up having to do is shift our purpose and our focus. We realized that we couldn't rely on external validation to pursue sustainability on campus. And a lot of the students, as well as faculty and staff, really care about us adopting sustainable changes and sustainable lifestyle here at SAS. But although this passion is very real, we found that it came as a challenge to convince people to forego the convenience of throwing a particular food item in a general waste bin or not recycling well. So in our journey to adopt more sustainable practices, including reducing food waste, we ended up doing 2 things. The first was we ended up engaging with the facilities team here at SAS. So in that scenario, that means speaking with Mr. Thomas's team. And finally, we ended up collaborating across the several different clubs at SAS. For one, when we began communicating with the facilities office here, we took tours of the food waste system. Mr. Colley and Mr. Thomas from the facilities office showed us how the food processor worked, how the fertilizer was made, and where the fertilizer was going. And this was a very important step in students understanding why it's so important to be cognizant of the food waste that we're generating. A lot of students were able to, for the very first time in their lives, see that one simple decision that they make, for example, putting that extra salad into the food waste bin, that little bit of change could result in creating fertilizer that could be later used in the community gardens or for the plants and horticulture here at SAS. And this change inspired a lot of mindset changes in the student body. This picture, or variety and series of pictures, is what we've been doing for the past couple of years. SAS has a variety of environmental clubs. So we have Global Issues Network, we have SAVE, which focuses mostly on rainforest maintenance, and we have Edible Garden City, which focuses on gardening, and we have BPI, which focuses on marine conservation. And we found that with growing communication between each of these clubs, we found a culture and care for sustainability. And if you take a look at my presentation, we ended up creating a lot of video lessons that we shared with the student body. We had a lot of information boards up, as well as webinars and events. And actually, something interesting, if you didn't already know, is currently we're in the midst of Earth Week, and tomorrow, the 22nd, is actually Earth Day. So here on campus, we host a variety of events just today during lunch, my friends and I played a game of trash get ball, where we took recycled paper and kind of tried to aim at the recycling bin. And although these are activities that might seem too playful, they actually incorporate and develop a culture of care within our community. And we found that any education that we can share, for example, showing kids the pictures of the food waste process, or explaining to them what happens with their waste, every bit of information they're receiving is extremely important. So that begs the question of what's in store for us in the future. Unfortunately, as a 12th grader, that means I'm leaving, so I won't be here at SAS, but I can guarantee you that the student body really, really cares about sustainability. We really care about what we're doing, and we want to make change. And so far, few things have worked for us. For one, we really had to shift our focus and our purpose. Instead of requiring or wanting external validation from EcoSAS, the organization, and wanting that certification, we realized that we wanted to approach sustainability from within, and we wanted our campus culture to embody the sustainable ideals. Second, we realized that contacting each other and keeping each other in the loop was extremely important. That meant constant emails and text messages exchanged between students, between our teachers, as well as the facilities and staff at SAS. And finally, it required a commitment to keep learning and to keep engaging in conversations. A lot of the stuff that I learned today in this presentation, not a lot of my peers will know. Nobody really understands until you go ahead and teach them what problems there are existing within our sustainable goals or ideas. For example, if you take a few students from my classroom, they might not understand issues that the food bank is trying to deal with on a regular basis. So essentially, a lot of what my learning in the past 4 years working in SAS on sustainability as a student has been, is we constantly are engaging in conversation. And today is a best example of how these conversations are very, very important in developing new ideas, problem solving. And I hope that I can learn a lot from you guys as well. And I'm sure Mr. Thomas is here to learn a lot from you guys as well on how we can improve our systems and what we can take away from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kyra. And thank you, Simon. Great to hear the learning, and particularly great to hear what works, what doesn't, because I think everybody struggles with moving from intent to action in order to achieve the positive outcomes, and that's great. Nicholas, many thanks to you again for your presentation, and welcome back. I see you've been busy answering some of the specific questions that the audience has posed to you, so thank you very much for doing that. If I can maybe just start with Simon and just ask a question. Your big eco composter, I hope I've got that terminology right. I mean, does that cost a lot of money to run? Because that must be another concern when you get to not just cost, but the sustainability aspect of life.
Yeah, you're spot on there, Victor. Right, one of the biggest energy consumers of any sort of eco composter, and actually it's very related to the whole chain, is that food, especially food waste, is water intensive, right? So there's a significant carbon footprint in carrying food around the world because of the water content. And so when it gets to waste food, to turn it into compost, one of the things that you have to do is dry it, right? You have to use an industrial dryer to dry the byproduct after the fermentation and has happened. So I am sure that we could do this better. I'm sure that there is, a way to do this in a better way, maybe using the sun to do this eventually. We do have 1 megawatt of installed solar in the school. So I'm sort of, in the back of my mind, I'm sort of thinking that maybe the solar panel is helping us drive this thing. But I'll be very interested to see with this change in legislation in 2024, and I'd love to hear Nicholas's view on it, and maybe other people that are on this call, you know, when the law changes in 2024, this is going to lead to a change of behavior. You know, is everyone going to need to get an eco digester, and then it's going to, you know, dim the grid, or is everyone going to have to work with Nicholas, and we're going to need 4 Nicholases to deal with the food bank? So I think you raise a very pertinent point. I honestly think we're a bit of an eco criminal with the amount of power that this thing takes for drying things. But on the flip side, we have saved the energy that it would take the waste disposal company to take it, and then it ends up in Tuas and is thrown into a huge furnace anyway. So
yes,
the reduction in transport, I think, is a big call when it comes to understanding the whole carbon footprint of this.
Thank you very much. So let's ask Nicholas your question. You know, with the change in law, what is that going to mean for, you know, the amount of food available for redistribution? What do you think?
I think it's a few ways to answer the question, right? I mean, if you have lesser food or lesser wastage, it's a good thing too. I think being NGOs and being, whether it's a company and all that, you'll be resourceful enough to try and find food that you need. So I'll rather be finding brand new food and there's no zero wastage. So I mean, that's probably the easiest way to answer the question. So if there's no wastage, I mean, Nicole and myself, we actually had this dream of ours. We tell it to anybody who wants to listen, that we want to put ourselves out of a job, even though this is a volunteer job. We want to put food bank out of a job, and all the staff that we hire, we do tell them that, look, if we do our job good enough, you guys all will be fired because there's no more things to recover. So, but yeah,
I think you'll be in business for a long while to come. You know, given the amount of food there is circulating in Singapore. Listening to your presentation earlier, Nicholas, I was really struck by how sophisticated the options for redistributing food have become. I mean, apart from the obvious digitalization transformation argument, what else has been driving that, what I call that sort of very sophisticated model? Is it not just, you talked a lot about choice, but I guess also it's a manpower issue.
Yep. I think for us, being a younger charity, so we've only been around for what, 10 years? This is our 10th year. Yeah. And I think coming from, I guess, from running a business background, and of course manpower issues and everything, we wanted to find different ways and new ways of doing the same thing. So I mean, there have been food charities that have been around longer than us, but they've always been doing the old school stuff. And again, I mean, even from a marketing angle, if I did the same thing as the other guy, it's very hard for us to stand out, because they'll be, oh, so you are just another one. But when we do slightly different things, people would talk about you more. And if it helps us to even be more efficient, and then it will help. Because also, anybody that's been in Singapore long enough, we didn't want to have an incident, for example, like the National Kidney Foundation, where it's about trust here, right? So we wanted to tell people where the food went to. So if you donated food to us, in general, we'll be able to tell you that, look, your 100 tons of rice actually went to this beneficiary, 2 tons went to here, 2 tons went to there, and all that. So, and we're just trying to push the envelope of what is acceptable in Singapore. So sometimes we have done things that maybe is not so acceptable. So for example, just this about 4 hours ago at lunchtime, if anybody's caring, you can actually go to this website called OpenSea. We actually launched NFTs. So Food Bank Singapore has launched NFTs to raise funds. So yeah, so we are in a way we are trying to sell NFTs to raise funds. It's our first step. So we are also accepting crypto. So anybody that wants to donate your crypto, we accept Bitcoin, we accept Ethereum. We are the first charity in Singapore, I'm very sure, to accept crypto. We went through a lot of hoops to try and do this, but again, we're also trying to push the envelope and trying to see what works, what doesn't. We don't even know whether this works or not, but if all of a sudden I have somebody donating $1 million worth of crypto that I couldn't have gotten if I didn't accept crypto, I mean, as a charity, I would gladly take it any time of the day.
Amazing. That's quite amazing. And clearly this idea of continuing to innovate in order to stay relevant and respond to what's happening in the marketplace is clearly very important, you know, for the sustainability of what you do. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think it, just to add to that, we are running the charity like a business, like a company, even though it's not for profit. But I think it's, if we don't stay relevant, eventually as a charity, you depend a lot on donations. So if you don't stay relevant, you don't stay at people's top of mind, eventually the donations will run out and you just die a natural death because you don't have money to feed the staff.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yes, it's a sustainability story for every business. You're absolutely right. Coming back to, if I can ask Kyra a quick question before she pops off for her next appointment. Kyra, what's next for you? I know you mentioned that as a 12th grader, you'll be leaving SAS and presumably moving on to university. So what are you planning to do to continue your sustainability journey?
Absolutely. So knowing that I'm kind of going to be leaving school, there are a few things that I have to settle here at SAS to kind of make sure that the club that I've been a part of, Blue Planet Initiative, has the right organization, the right models to continue work in their coming years without me. So that means that, you know, we're having a lot of meetings internally, discussing ideas, and I'm helping sort of the new members and the new leaders in the organization have a better understanding of what has been done before, what my reflections as well as my peers' reflections have been in the past couple of years, and what might be held for the future. For me personally, of course, I'm kind of at a loss of where I'm going to be in the next couple of years and what I'll be doing. I'm still kind of deciding between universities at the moment. But I do have a very strong feeling that I'm going to be engaged in sustainability. I know a lot of colleges, a lot of universities have sustainability initiatives on campus. So there are clubs and organizations that do regular cleanups, or there are donations and regular volunteering drives. And actually listening to Nicholas speak today, I am very much interested in also participating in food bank drives. That's something that I've never done before. And I think it's an opportunity I'd like to seek out when I go off to university as well. Yeah.
Well, that's terrific. And please allow us to wish you all the very best for your future plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Simon, one last question to you before we turn to the Q&A box with questions from the audience. What's next for SAS? I know you said before we started, you're very, very busy with this over $400 million expansion and refit of the campus.
Well, I think these sustainability projects, all of these projects are a journey, right? I don't think you ever get there. You never. Yeah. Our biggest challenge is human behavior. Yeah, so I think it's easy for a facilities department to put in infrastructure. I mean, if you're in a relatively well-resourced organization, we can all put infrastructure in here. I think there is a clear piece that we need to do around student behavior. We spend a lot of time trying to sort our food waste out from other waste in the waste stream. Kyra talked about that, and the students need to work on giving the why behind why you should not pollute the food waste. But I mean, actually listening to Nicholas, I think we're not leveraging our community to solve other problems, we have a huge population inside our school that perhaps is also suffering from food insecurity. And actually, Nicholas's talk just brought that to the fore. At the moment, we have more than 350 construction workers working inside our school. We have all sorts of other demographics within the school that I'm sure are suffering from food insecurity. So I'm thinking, without wanting to set up as a competitor to Nicholas, that maybe we need to be looking at our own community and seeing where the gaps are there, and sort of do that. And then, if we don't find as many gaps as we think there might be, maybe we divert that and make sure that food bank gets it. I think we have a very privileged community here. Not just the students, but the faculty. Everybody here is privileged. Yes. So we really need to do something about that. And I think my action point from this is to see if I can talk to Kyra, and I notice there's another SES teacher on this call here, and see whether we can create a little food bank. A tiny little, nothing like Nicholas's, right? I mean, ours is a baby one, right? But we can deal with this. And I think actually, when I think about the role of large organizations and corporations, this is a really low-hanging fruit, right? It's not that difficult to do. And I hope that if there are other large organizations on this call, they can also reflect in that way here. And then as Kyra goes off to her college and stuff like that, and becomes a leader in the future, then she'll take that with her as well.
Yeah, so I mean, charity begins at home. That's a very good point. And it sounds like there may be a collaboration opportunity for the school with Nicholas. So that might be a possibility too.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's look at some of these questions. I see the wonderful Paul Fong from Dow has been super busy and making some very good plugs for a couple of worthy causes, and not just the one that he's most closely associated with which is the recycling of old sports shoes. I'm sure that he will follow up with the school and will be glad to connect if a connection is needed. Let's just have a look at some of the other questions. So we have a question here. Does Food Bank work with the Hotel Association, Restaurant Association to expand the supply of waste food and beneficiaries? Nicholas. This is from Ki Chung.
Yeah, we do. We have a couple of years ago, I think we have pitched it to the Hotel Association before, not the Restaurant Association. But as you can imagine, cooked food it's quite tough. And of course, if, for example, if a chicken rice store comes to me and say, "Oh, I've got one chicken left," then sometimes you also have to see whether it's efficient or not efficient to do. So sometimes composting and using machines, that might be a better bet. So we really have to weigh the pros and cons. So for example, like I gave the example of Marina Bay Sands, usually it's because it's a convention and they have, like, for example, I have 20 trays of fried rice left. So that's quite worth it to go down and collect. So yeah, we really have to do, and a lot of organizations, hotels and all that, they are still very wary of food safety. So they might not be so open to doing it, even if they have a lot of food to donate.
Yeah, so in fact, Ki Chung has got a follow-up question, which is, if you want to expand what you do, what resources would you need? And also I mean, apart from mindset change among restaurants and hotels, what else would you need?
I want to say money, but everybody needs money, right? But I think besides that, it's actually, Victor, what you're saying about the mindset change, it's actually the most important thing. So if everybody really wanted to buy in, I won't say I'm 100% confident, but raising funds for this will actually be relatively easy, because as long as we say that, oh, I have nearly 10 hotels that want to buy in now, they want to donate, and they already given me their black and white saying that they will donate. So once you have that, then everything else can be in motion. But because everything else, we already sort of have a structure in place, and everything else could be quite easily in motion.
And what about the mindset shift? How do you think we as a society can encourage that?
As you know, the government has done quite a good job. When the government said they wanted to go into sustainability, that I think maybe now 2 years ago, and they wanted to go in a big way, and that's when we suddenly saw a big mindset shift from everybody, especially the corporates. So previously, our last 8 years before that, we were just hitting our head against the wall, and nothing can get done. And all of a sudden, when the government says, "Oh, you should do this," or "You must do this, if not, I will fine you," or something, and then all of a sudden you get everybody coming in. So it's a typical Singapore thing, right?
Very, very typical that people move when they see that it might make them look virtuous, or when they have to by law. Yes, very, very typical. Okay, so we need a bit more of that, perhaps. Ernest wants to know, what is LeanPath software and how does it help in monitoring food waste?
Okay, LeanPath, right. So LeanPath is a commercial product. You can find out from typing in LeanPath into Google, and it will give you an answer. But I can tell you how we use it practically, and it's actually, I'll simplify it. I think if there was anyone from LeanPath on the call, they'd probably tell me it's much more complicated than this. But how we use it, and I know that UWC is on this call as well, and I know that it's used at UWC as well, and I know the German school is also on this call, might be used there as well. So what happens is it broadly, it's meant to drive commercial change. Actually, it's a weighing software. So what you do is you use LeanPath. You have a set of scales here, and then you put your waste on the scales. Here some of it will come from production waste here. So it helps the catering company analyze its production waste here. If everybody is forced to use LeanPath and put their waste through LeanPath, then a commercial catering company can quickly gauge if there's a significant commercial issue going on. We also use it for weighing the food waste in terms of whether the menu is very popular. So that's what I'm trying to use it at the moment. It's actually not very successful because the kids keep chucking stuff in the bin that they shouldn't do. But one day I'll get it to work. And the idea is that we have a 6-week menu cycle in the high school. And if you weigh the amount of waste being produced in there, you can statistically know which dishes are very popular. So, or the chef's not done a great job today. And then hopefully working backwards up the pyramid that I showed earlier, then perhaps we'll take that dish off the menu for the next 6-week cycle. And then I worry a bit about that because I'll probably end up having burger and fries every day. But generally speaking, you can understand the logic. I actually doubt whether it'll ever work, but I tend to be a positive person.
Well, that's great, but I don't quite understand, how does that software sort of help you know which dishes are more popular than others?
So simply put, it weighs and produces graphs and produces comparative data.
I see.
Here, and there's a slick semi-analytical engine behind it. So if you take a bin, let's say a bin of a certain size and a certain dimension, you put it on the scales, and everybody scrapes their food waste in on a Monday, and there's say 50 kilos, and then on a Tuesday when you've cooked when you've cooked broccoli and spinach sandwiches only, and you weigh the bin and it weighs 65 kilos, you know that the broccoli and spinach sandwiches weren't very popular.
Okay, got it.
So I think that's on the consumer side, but I think a lot of it is driving change through the catering contractor. So for instance, you know, you're looking, especially when you talk about the bakery, right? The bakery, a lot of the food that the baker throw away is actually very consumable. It just might be the wrong shape here. So the baker here, Mr. Wong, you know, it may make a few disasters in the day. And I think every time if you force him to weigh everything before that, a lot of that waste is not really waste. It can be put back into the consumer line, you know, at a discount price or even given away for free. So I think it just keeps people accountable. In a commercial setting, if you just allow your cook to throw away anything in the sink or throw away it into the bin, then really you're not building any accountability there.
Excellent.
Google it, I think.
Thank you very much indeed. So Nicholas, there's a question from Mahesh. I think you actually answered that question during your presentation, or maybe it was before that when we were talking before the event. But yeah, it's probably good to have a comment on what's the impact on you know, food supply and inflation caused by the current war in Ukraine.
Thanks for the question, Mahesh. But I think, I think that when we were discussing it pre-event, I was just sharing them that thanks to the war, for example, palm oil, vegetable oil costs went up 30% within that week. I mean, all the costs have gone up since the pandemic has hit, and when we all thought everything was getting a bit more normal, the war happened, and so if you love pasta and you love your bread, get ready for all the pricing to go up, because wheat pricing has gone up. If you like to use sunflower oil, and there are a lot of things that from Europe, your vegetables, your tomatoes are soaked in sunflower oil, so that has gone up too. So, but yeah, and we don't see any end in sight at the moment, and even if the war ended tomorrow, the pricing will not drop yet. So, but yeah, inflation is real. If you read any report, sometimes they say it's stagflation. And yeah, for those that don't know, because I didn't remember what stagflation was, and I studied in school many, many years ago, I had to Google what stagflation meant again.
Yeah, I mean, we're all dealing with right across the world, cost of living increases caused by fuel prices, and of course that inevitably impacts food imports into Singapore. And I'm not surprised that the war has added to the woes. And of course, this is exactly what we didn't need coming out of 2 years of the pandemic, because the sort of scourge of inflation and the impact that has on disposable incomes and people's lives has just been exacerbated by the war. So it's really regrettable. I'm really impressed, ladies and gentlemen, with all the linkages that I can see in the Q&A. It's great, and keep talking and keep linking between yourselves. Looks like there's plenty of opportunities for all sorts of collaborations, and I want to wish you all the best with those. We've come to the end of questions, and it really just remains for me to thank Simon and Kyra from SAS and Nicholas from the Food Bank for your time this afternoon. I know you're very busy people. Thank you very much indeed for sharing your insights, and really thanks to our very engaged audience. It's great to see those questions as well as the linkages between you, because I think that's how we all learn, and that's how we all prosper. So thank you very much indeed. If there's anything the Chamber can do in terms of connecting people or topics that you would like us to cover in this or any other event series, just drop us a line to here-to-help@sicc.com.sg. We'll be delighted to help you. For those of you who are not members, if you want to join, you can find a membership application form on the website, or drop a line to membership@sicc.com.sg. Thank you so much from me and my team, and wish you good health and every success. And safe travels, Nicholas. I hope you enjoy your next piece of revenge travel. Okay, take care. All the very best. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Victor. Thanks, Nicholas.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Simon.